Right, hello everyone. How is everybody today? Hope you are having a wonderful Monday. Hope you had a wonderful weekend. I am just going to pull my chat up here and we will go ahead and get started. All right. Rihanna says, glad to be back. I'm glad to be back too, you guys. I feel like I've been away from our YouTube here for a while, but it's only been a couple of days. But I was out in the office getting some other, some really fun videos filmed for you guys. So we're going to have some great videos coming out. So make sure to keep checking our channel here on a regular basis for lots of great information, lots of great education. But today, if you didn't see our post on Discord, which you guys, if you haven't already, make sure that you join us on our Discord server. I always post up what we're going to be working on there so you can gather all of your products and you can work along with me. But today we're going to be doing a cotton candy inspired design. So I've got some nails already finished up. So this is the design that we're going to be creating today, just to give you a little heads up and a little, advanced info on that. So before we start, I just shortened up my nail here. I usually like to shorten up the nails when I'm working, whether it's on a trainer hand or on a real client, just to make sure that that natural nail doesn't interfere with our tip application. And that's what we're going to be working on today. We're going to be using our full cover tips. We've got our almond shaped tips here, and you guys, I'm starting to get low on some sizes here, so I need to restock my sizes, but we've got a great assortment of those tips. We're going to be adhering these with our tip and jewel adhesive. And if you haven't tried this yet for adhering your tips, your full cover tips, your quarter well tips, whatever tips you're working with, this tip and jewel adhesive is going to adhere those really, really well. So we've got that. Tip and jewel adhesive also works great for when you are putting on rhinestones and things like that. So great product to have on hand, and that's what we're going to be working with today. Now, before we actually start our application, I'm going to go through, push back my cuticles, and you want to make sure that you're pushing back the cuticles on all of the nails, even if you are just practicing. Make sure to go through that habit or get into that habit, go through that routine, stay in that routine, because whatever you practice on the trainer hand, that's what you're going to have a tendency to do once you get to the real client. So make sure to stick into that routine. Now, before I get into the rest of my prep, I'm going to size out my tip. And I like to size out the tips before I actually do the rest of my prep, so that when I do my prep, I'm going to be filing and things on the nail. And when I do my filing, it's going to create a little bit of dust. So I want to make sure that I'm sizing the tips out so that they stay fairly dust free. Now, you guys, you can see, and if you joined us on a lot of our live streams where I use this style of tip, I do tend to go with the, let's see, these are size 0, 1, 2, 3. I usually go between a 2 and a 3 on these. So you can see that I'm a little bit low on those. I, again, need to have those replaced. But just so you can see, I'm going to show you a couple of different sizes other than the ones that I know that are going to fit. So let's go a size bigger than what you should generally be sizing out. Now, when you are sizing out, let me come in a little closer here. The things that you want to keep an eye on when you're sizing your tips is the C curve of the nail. So the curve of the nail, if you look straight down the barrel, that's what we mean by C curve. Now, if we turn it on the side, that's going to be a little bit more of a C shape, but that's what we mean by the C curve. So that curve of the nail from looking down the barrel. Now, when you're sizing your tip, you want to make sure that the tip size is fitting that C curve as well. So you can either compare them from this direction, or you can actually hold that tip onto the nail and make sure that that fits fairly flush down on there. Now, this one is a little bit large. It's hanging off the edges a little bit, but it does fit that C curve well. It does fit nice and snug on there. It's not squishing that nail at all. So let me show you what I mean by that. So if we have a really small nail, much smaller than what we want on there, do you see how this one just, it sets on top of there? It's not actually sitting flush down onto the nail like the larger size does. That larger size, you can see from this direction, it does fit more flush down on there. The smaller nail, again, there's a little bit of a gap in between there. If you were to take that tip and press that down and really squish that down on there, then it looks like it would fit on there. But what happens when you let go of that is it's going to want to pop back up. So you don't want to be using a tip that you really have to force it down on there or really press down on there. Because again, after you adhere that, it's going to have more of a tendency to want to pop back up. So again, you want to make sure that you're sizing out, first of all, so that that C-curve fits really nicely, but then you want to make sure that it's coming from sidewall to sidewall and not having too much overlap. Now this one does fit that C-curve nicely, but we do have a lot of overlap. So I know that that one's going to be a little on the larger side. Let's take a look at a size 2. Now this one does fit, it still fits that C-curve nicely, and it's got maybe just a little bit of overhang, maybe a little bit more than what I need. Now here's something to consider. When you're working with the tip and jewel adhesive that we're going to be using, this is a thicker gel. So let me open this up so you guys can see. So this being a thicker gel, we want to make sure that we're compensating for that thickness. This is going to go in the well of our tip. And if we use a thick gel like this to adhere those tips, it's going to actually raise up just slightly on that nail. So it's not going to fit flush down on there. It's going to raise up that tip ever so slightly. Now I'm over exaggerating this so you guys can see, but it is going to raise that up just slightly. So when it raises up, it's going to lift up those sidewalls just a little bit. And if you size out so that it's perfect, let me show you this from the side. If you size out that tip perfectly right to that edge, when we actually do put that tip and jewel adhesive on, it's going to bring that tip up and we're going to have a tiny little gap right along that side. We want to make sure that we're sizing our tip out so that even once it does raise up, it's still going to cover that natural nail. So I think this tip might be a good size, but I'm going to check one size smaller. I'm going to check a size 3 here. Now this one I actually really like because this one fits really nicely down on the C-curve of that nail. It also comes just ever so slightly, you can take a look from the side here, ever so slightly off the edge here and ever so slightly off the edge on the other side. So this one I really find is a great size for this nail because again, it's fitting that C-curve really nicely. It's fitting from sidewall to sidewall with just a tiny little bit of overhang. And then that way, when we put our tip and jewel adhesive on, it's going to bring that tip right up to that edge. So we're going to go with this one. Somebody's asking in the chat, tips should last 2 weeks, right? Depending on how you put your tips on is going to kind of affect how long you're going to be able to wear them. Now, what we're doing today, using the tip and jewel adhesive and adhering our tips with that, you can actually go 2 weeks with this and fill them in. And to fill them, I would use our fiber gel. And we have a lot of different options for fiber gel. What I've got on my own nails is the Cover Nude, but we've got clear, we've got other colors and options for you. So you can fill in with the fiber gel. Now, eventually you are going to have to remove those and restart, but it is a great option. Now, if you're putting the tips on and just say gluing them on, then I would say that's a little bit more of a temporary set where you're not going to be filling those. It would maybe be for like a weekend or maybe a vacation or something like that. So if you're using the tip and jewel adhesive, that is a little bit more of a permanent application. So you definitely can wear those for 2+ weeks. So, all right, now that we've got our tip sized out, I'm going to leave this and our tip and jewel adhesive off to the side. So that way it's not going to get any dust on it. Oh, wait, you guys, I did forget one thing. Before we go on, I'm going to customize this just a little bit because when I put that tip on, sometimes it doesn't quite fit all the way perfect around those edges. So I like to just go through and just kind of customize that a little bit more. I'm going to round that out so it actually fits a little bit better right up into that cuticle area. So I'm going to round that out a little bit. And you guys, I forgot I had my 180 file buffer combo here. I usually like to use my buffer combo because it's got the file on one side that I can use to shape that, and then it's got the buffer on the other side. So you can see there's a little bit of a frayed edge. So now I can just flip over to my buffer side and use that. You guys, I always tend to grab my 150 grit file just because that's my go-to for a lot of different things. But when I'm customizing these tips, I really do like to use the combo because then I can go back and forth and not have to, you know, set down my file and grab another one. I can just flip back and forth and file and then buff if I need to, and it's good to go. All right, I think we're good there. Okay, whoops. Oh, almost dropped my tip there. Hold on. Okay, so I'm going to check that sizing one more time. Now I feel like it's going to fit a little bit better up into those corners and into that cuticle area. So we're ready to go with our tip. I'm going to set that off to the side now. And let's go back and we'll finish up the rest of our prep. Now we've already pushed back the cuticles on here. And the reason that I start by pushing back the cuticles and then I do my sizing versus do my sizing and then do my cuticles is because usually when I'm working on the cuticles, that's my time to talk with my client and just confirm what service we're doing, maybe what color or what design we're doing. So it just gives me a little bit of extra time that I'm not wasting. So just a quick little speed kind of a technique. Then once you have your tips sized out and ready to go, then you can go ahead and do the rest of your prep. And I'm going to switch out my sanding band here to grab a brand new one. Always make sure that you're starting with a brand new sanding band so that it is clean and it is the proper grit. You can see, I always like to show you guys, the used ones, they're going to be worn down a little bit. And when they're worn down, you're not going to get the proper filing or the proper texture to the nail. So always make sure that you're working with a brand new sanding band. And that way, again, it's going to be nice and clean. Now, when you grab a new sanding band, I'm going to show you guys this really quick here. Our sanding bands do come pre-beveled, so it does have a little bit of a softer edge, so I'm not really concerned about cutting the cuticles. But if you do feel like you need to, maybe if it feels a little bit sharp, or maybe you have a client that's got very delicate cuticles, you can take that sanding band, and I've got my speed on about 5,000 RPMs. Just give your sanding band a couple of taps onto that file. Just go 1, 2, 3, right on that corner. And what that's going to do is that's going to soften up that edge just a little bit more, just in case if you do have somebody with a little bit more delicate cuticles. All right, let's come in here nice and close. We're going to go through, we're going to prep the surface of the nail, and I'm just going to work right up around that cuticle area. Again, at 5,000 RPMs, I would say between 4,000 to 6,000, and I usually go right about 5,000. And then I'm going to feather that bit all the way through, removing shine all the way through. And this is going to create a little bit of texture on the nail, and it's also going to help to break up any surface oils that are on the nail. So just very gently, barely making contact, and then feathering that bit all the way through. I think we're good there. All right, we're going to dust off the nail. Get rid of all that little bit of dust that's on there. Make sure the nail is as dust-free as possible, even underneath the nail. If you need to dust out underneath there, go ahead and do that. And then we're going to come in with our swipe. So swipe is our blue liquid here. This is what we're going to use. I'm just going to pump this on my brush. And this is what we're going to use to cleanse the nail. So cleansing the nail is going to help to get rid of those last little tiny little particles of dust that may not have come off when we dusted the nail a couple seconds ago. It's also going to dry out that surface and really break down and remove any surface oils that might still be left on there. And it's also going to take care of any germs or bacteria that are on the nail. So you want to make sure that you're really giving this a good chance to dry. You can start to see that it's coming back to that dry look. But you want to make sure that you are waiting until that whole nail is completely dry to make sure all of the germs have been taken care of. And then also we're going to put protein bond on. And we want to make sure that we're not putting protein bond on that wet surface because again, the swipe is designed to break down any contaminants that may be on the nail, and it can break down the protein bond. So make sure that you are waiting until that nail is completely dry, and then you can apply your protein bond. Somebody's saying that brush would hurt. You guys, the brush that I'm using here, this is just a soft manicure brush. This is not something that is hard or it's not gonna injure or hurt. You guys, even on myself, I use this on myself all the time. It doesn't hurt. It actually feels really good to help to clean off any of that dust. So it's a nice, safe, soft brush, so not to worry. Okay, let's come back to our protein bond. Now, protein bond works like a double-sided tape, so wherever we put our protein bond, that's where our product is going to want to really adhere to. Now, I start in the center and then I work out to the sides, and the reason that I work like this is so that I'm not flooding my protein bond up into the cuticle. I want to make sure that I'm keeping product off of the skin as much as possible. So by starting halfway down the nail, working back up to that cuticle, working out to those sides, I'm going to put the majority of my product right in the center and then working it out to the side so that I cover the whole nail, but I don't oversaturate or get that product onto the skin. Now notice that I did 2 coats of my protein bond. Usually when I do my enhancements like this, I do like to use 2 coats just to make sure that I've got great adhesion. Now, one more thing we're going to do is I'm going to take again that protein bond. So same thing that I just put onto the nail. I'm going to apply a coat of this into the well of the tip. Now, when you're working with a gel, gels like to adhere to a tacky or a textured surface. So they don't like to stick to a shiny surface. So by putting on that coat of protein bond, it gives this tip a little bit more of a tacky surface. It doesn't texturize it, but it gives it a tacky surface for our tip and jewel adhesive to adhere to. And it's going to give you really great adhesion. Now let's get our product on here. So I'm going to be using, this is our dual-ended brush and spatula. So it's got little caps on both ends here. So if I take both of those caps off, I've got a brush on one end and a spatula on the other. I like to use the spatula end to scoop out my gel and take a little bit of that out of there, tap off those little stray edges. Now I'm going to apply my tip and jewel adhesive into the well of the tip. Now I'm not just going to scrape it right off onto the edge here. I'm going to bring that down as far down as I think my tip is going to adhere onto that natural nail. Put some pressure on and drag that back towards that cuticle area, towards the end of the tip. And then I can bring that product out towards the sides. Now notice that I'm not bringing that product all the way to the edge. I'm leaving just a tiny little bit of space right through here. The reason for that is when I do put this onto the nail, some of that adhesive is going to squeeze out to the sides. And if I put that product all the way to the edge, it's possible that it's going to squeeze off the edge, and I don't want that. So I want to make sure that I'm leaving just a little bit of space around that edge, and I'm going to scrape off that last little bit of adhesive right back into that cuticle area. So this is going to give me enough product to adhere onto the nail. Now I'm going to set my tip and jewel adhesive off to the side. And I'm going to grab my Touch Cure Light. You guys, if you haven't worked with full cover tips like this, or if you haven't worked with our Touch Cure Light, it's a great product and it's a great system. So what this is just a mini curing light. So I'm going to turn that on, and then you can tap the end of it to turn it off and turn it on. It's got a little timer on there to tell you that it's on. But this is going to help when we go to cure this nail, because we want to set this into place so that we can work on all of the rest of the nails. And I'll show you how to do that in just a second here. But I just wanted to show you guys that's what I've got right here. That is my Touch Cure Light. So let's go ahead and apply this tip. All right, now you guys, what I'm going to do, I'm not just going to set that tip down flat onto the nail. I'm going to start at a slight angle. So I'm going to angle this down towards the cuticle. I'm going to put pressure at that cuticle area, and then I'm going to rock it down. But as I'm rocking it down, I'm going to just slide it back just a little bit. The reason for this is so that I don't have any product squeezing out that back end. Let me bring this a little bit different angle for you guys. So as I'm applying that tip, I'm going to set it down. So I'm going to set it down here, I'm going to slide it back, and then I'm going to rock it down. And you're going to start to see that it's going to connect to that nail. Okay, so let's go ahead and apply. So again, setting that tip down, connecting, slide that tip back so I don't have product squeezing out the back end. And then I'm going to gently rock that down, and you're seeing all of that product connect to that natural nail. Now, one of the great things about the tip and jewel adhesive is that it is a very thick product, so it's not really going to run or move. You actually have a lot of time, or you have as much time as you need to really situate that tip. Now I can hold that just gently right here. Again, I'm making sure that all of my adhesive has adhered all the way to the end of that nail. And I'm going to just hold that with my thumbnail right here, and we're going to get that into our light. Now you guys, it looks like I did have a little bit of that product squeeze out the back as I was shifting here. That's okay. I'm going to show you how to fix that, but you want to try to keep that product off the skin as much as possible so that you're not getting that product on the skin. But again, my tip kind of moved a little bit as I was getting it into the light, so I'm going to show you how to fix that. But what I'm doing is just freezing this into place for maybe 10 to 20 seconds or so. And this way it's going to be set into place, and then I can work on the next nail. Now you guys, I already have the rest of these nails done, but if I were doing a full set, I would put one nail on, freeze it in the light, put my second nail on, freeze it in the light. Once I have all 5 nails on, then I'm going to put this back into our full UV LED light, and we're going to cure this for a full 60 seconds. So this does have to cure for a full 60 seconds in order for that tip and jewel adhesive to adhere properly. So always make sure that you are fully curing after your application here. But again, you can use that touch cure light to just freeze each one into place. So again, you can freeze one into place, apply the second one, freeze that one into place, apply the third one, freeze it into place. And again, once you have all 5 of those in, then you can go back into that full UV LED light to cure. Now, if you're working on a full set, one hand is always going to be in the light while you're working on the other. So it's not going to be anything where you're wasting time or anything like that. You're always going to be working on one hand, and then you're just going to alternate back and forth. Okay? You guys, if you haven't already, I'm seeing a lot of new names here in the chat, so if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button, join our community, get free education, and have some fun with us. All right, our nail is fully cured out. So again, that was a 60-second cure. Now I'm going to grab a new file. The file that I have, this is one that I just used on my trainer hand, but I'm going to grab a brand new one today. I think this one is a little bit worn down. Now when you are filing, you want to make sure when you get a brand new file that you do take the sharp edges off of it. And I've got my file that I use just for prep. I always put I write on there prep so that I know that this is my prep file. And I'm going to use that prep file to go across the top surface of that file, and then I'm going to just angle it ever so slightly, catch those edges, same thing on the other corner, catch those edges, just to make sure my file is nice and smooth and that it's not going to be sharp or cut my client's skin. So let's go ahead and just do a quick shape up on this. Now because we did use the tip, the full cover tips, we really don't have a lot of shaping to do. We don't have a lot of filing or customizing to do. So all I'm going to do is just catch my edges, make sure that everything is even. If you want to shorten it up, you can shorten it up. But then we're going to go through and we're going to prep the whole surface. And this is where I'm going to take care of that last little bit of product that squeezed out the back end. I'm just going to file that down, make sure that that is flush down to that natural nail. So just kind of blending out that back edge. And again, you guys, because I already took that sharp edge off of my sanding band here, I'm not worried about getting that too close to the cuticle, because again, it's not going to cut the surface or anything like that. But once I do have that blended down, then I'm going to go through and just gently remove the shine from the whole surface of this nail. Because again, like we were talking about earlier, when we're working with gels, gel does not like to stick to a smooth or a shiny surface. It needs texture, or it needs a tacky surface to bond to. And that's all that we're doing right here, is just creating that textured surface. Now again, we did have that tiny little bit that did squeeze out the back end. If you do get that, don't panic. The bit that I like to use to clean that up is our cross-cut diamond bit. Actually, sorry you guys, it's not our cross-cut diamond bit. It's our diamond cuticle square bit. And this one has a square top to it. but it's still nice and gentle, so it's going to work really nice and easy up around that cuticle area. This is actually one of the bits that I use for my prepping. So when I'm working on my prep, I like to use this one right up around that cuticle area. So you don't worry that it's going to cut. It's not going to cut skin. It's a great bit to work right up around that cuticle area. And again, if you do have a little bit of that product that's squeezed out, you can clean that up. Just nice and easy. Somebody's asking, why don't you texturize the back of the tip before fixing? If you're talking about texturizing the well, the reason that I don't, you could. Now you have options. So you could use your sanding band and you could go through and you could remove the shine in the well. But I found personally that Protein Bond works great as another option. So I did apply a coat of the Protein Bond in the well of that tip, so that way it's going to adhere really well. So it's a personal preference. For me, I like to use the Protein Bond. It's a little bit easier and a little bit quicker for me too. I've got just a tiny little bit of shine right on that point there. All right, I think we are good to go for our design. So again, I'm dusting off that nail really, really well. Dust that off as much as I can. Now, if you feel like you need to cleanse that nail to get rid of any last little bits of dust or anything that may be on there, at this point, we're not going to use the swipe. So the swipe was the cleanser that we used originally on that natural nail. We're going to now use our ManiQ Cleanser. ManiQ Cleanser is an alcohol-based cleanser, whereas swipe has acetone in it. So if we were to use acetone on our tip, it could actually start to break that tip down and make it a little bit soft. Acetone is what we would use to soak these off or dissolve them. So you want to make sure that you're using something that is non-acetone, and that's where our ManiQ Cleanser comes in. So I'm going to take a little bit of that on my brush, and just like we did before, cleanse that nail, dust that off, get all of those last little dust particles off the nail, and then even again underneath the nail if you need to. So just cleaning out underneath there, making sure we've got a nice clean surface. All right, one more time, we're gonna go back to our Protein Bond. You guys, Protein Bond works really well to adhere so many different things. So you do see that we use it quite a bit because it is such a great bonding, a great bonder. Now, we do have that textured surface, but we're going to add one coat of the Protein Bond to give that textured surface a tacky surface. So now it's almost double duty. We've got that tacky and we've got that texture, and that's what's going to really help our gel polish adhere to this nail. All right. So we've got, whoops, got that. I'm going to start with our ManiQ White 101. So ManiQ is our gel polish collection. It's a soft gel. And we're going to apply 1 to 2 coats of it, just depending on how you want your nail to look. And somebody's asking, is the Protein Bond the same as gel glue? No, Protein Bond is not a glue. Protein Bond is a bonder. So it basically works like a double-sided tape. So it's going to stick down to the nail or whatever you're applying it to, but then it's going to leave a sticky surface for your product to adhere to. So again, it's not a glue. You're not going to be able to stick those nails on with the Protein Bond. You do need some other form of adhesive, but this is, I guess Protein Bond, other than saying it works like a double-sided tape, it's just an extra adhesive. No, I'm not going to say that because it's not a glue. It's an adhesive aid. We'll say that. How's that? Okay, you guys, I applied 1 coat of our White 101. Again, this is our gel polish, so we're going to work with 2 coats of this, 1 to 2 coats, personal preference. And somebody else is asking, so Protein Bond is like a base coat. No, you guys, Protein Bond it's really its own separate entity. So Protein Bond, like I said, works like a double-sided tape. It's not a primer, so it doesn't have any of the methacrylic acid that primers have. It's a bonder, so it does work like a double-sided tape where it's going to stick down to that natural nail, or it's going to stick down to your tip application here, but then it's going to leave that sticky surface for everything else to grab onto. So if you think about it just like a double-sided tape, It sticks to what you put it onto, and then it adheres really well to whatever's on top of it. But it's not a glue, so you can't use it to adhere tips. It's just going to enhance the adhesion. Okay, I hope that helps. And you guys, if you need a little bit more information on Protein Bond or really any of the products and tools and things that I'm using here today, we do have over 3,000 videos here on our YouTube channel for you. I know we've got a great video on Protein Bond and how to use it, what its purpose is. We've got a great video here on our channel, so make sure to subscribe to the channel. Make sure to check out the rest of our videos to see all of the great information that we have. And you guys, I love answering the questions that you guys have in the chat, but if I do miss any of them, like I said, check out the rest of our channel here and get all of the rest of that great free education. Now you guys, I was going to open up my colors here, but I'm going to show you what we're working with first. So I've got our Slick Pour colors, and these are technically our dip powder system, but they are just a really ultra fine acrylic powder with a lot of color pigment to them. So the 4 different colors I'm going to be working with today are Wine Flight, and our pink is Silk Peony, and the peonies are starting to bloom this time of year, so that's why we're going to be using that one. And then we've got Courtesy Call, which is a fun teal. And then we've also got Canary Zing, which is a really pretty bright yellow. So I'm going to open up all of our colors here. And we're going to be using these colors not as a dip system, really not as an acrylic, because they are an acrylic powder. But we're going to be using them just as a light powder coating. So at this point, again, we've used 2 coats of our ManiQ White 101. This is our gel polish. And when this cures, it does have a tacky surface to it. So we're going to just take, I'm just using just a small little makeup brush, and we're going to take a little bit of each of these colors and dab it right into that tacky surface. So let's start with our yellow. So I'm going to take a little bit of the yellow, and you can put your colors wherever you want to, create your own patterns, create your own designs. And actually I'm going to grab another table towel. This is just a little clean table towel so I can tap out that extra color out of my brush. And just grabbing each of these colors, tapping those down into that tacky surface. And that tacky surface is going to grab onto those colors. And I'm just blending those a little bit in between colors. And then wipe out my brush a little bit. Let's grab a little bit of that pink, tap that in there, and this nail is going to end up looking like just a light cotton candy. So you guys, let me know in the chat, what's your favorite color of cotton candy? I want to know. I want to know. Let me know. So again, just tapping those colors in and then starting to blend them together just a little bit. You can overlap them just a little bit. And I think maybe just a little bit more yellow right in there, blending those in together. And I think I like how that's looking. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to grab my, this is our, let me come back out here. This is our stamper. And I like to use my stamper for pressing down that powder. And you can see I'm just going to press that down on there, press that powder in so it really sticks down into that tacky surface. There's not a lot of that tacky surface, so we have to just make sure that we're getting enough of that powder down in there. Okay. At this point, I'm going to cure this one more time, just freeze that into place. So maybe, I don't know, 10 to 20 seconds or so. And you could also use that touch cure light if you want to. But I'm curing that into that tacky layer so that when we do our top coat, it's not going to smudge. Now, you guys, if you want, you can finish these nails with a shiny finish. You can finish them with a matte finish. Whatever you like to do is up to you. But now that we've got that cured out, I'm going to take that nail one more time. And you can see there's a little bit of that color powder around the cuticle area. I'm going to use my brush here, just dust that off a little bit. But now that my color is cured into that tacky layer, I don't have to really worry about smudging it. So I'm gonna just go through, dust off any of that extra powder that's on there. All right, you guys, if you haven't already, make sure to hit the subscribe button before I do my next layer here. And at this point, I'm gonna go in with a coat of our ManiQ base coat. Now, there's a couple of reasons for this. One, the base coat is gonna seal in that color, so that way when I actually do my top coat, I'm gonna have a nice smooth finish and I'm not gonna feel any texture to it. But the other reason that I'm using ManiQ Base Coat is because ManiQ Base is going to also have a tacky surface to it. So if I want to go through and do a second coat of the color, if I want to make it a little bolder, a little bit brighter, it's going to have that tacky surface and I can apply a second coat of my powders into it. We're going to cure that for another 30 seconds. So again, if you wanted to make your color a little bit bolder, a little bit brighter, you can definitely do your coat of ManiQ color or ManiQ base coat and then reapply a second coat of the powders. Because I want to keep this a little bit more subtle today, a little bit softer, a little bit more of a hazy kind of a color, I'm going to just do one coat. But again, at this point, your ManiQ base coat does have that tacky layer after it cured, but we're going to let this go at this point. Now, we're going to finish our nail. So those of you that know the chant, go ahead and start our top coat chant in the chat. And those of you that are new to our channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and then you can join us for the top coat chant in the chat. So let's go ahead and start that. But again, today, you guys, I'm going to be working with our matte non-tack top coat, and this is going to give us a really pretty matte look onto our nail. So you guys, I'm going to show you something fun. I'm going to show you how this matte top coat cures, because when the hand is in the UV light, you can't really see it, but I'm going to be using our touch cure light. I just want to show you this. I will do a final cure in the full light, but I want you guys to see how the matte top coat actually goes from shiny to matte. And I'll just show you that real quick, but we will get this into the full UV LED light to get that full cure. So we're going to do one coat of our matte top coat all the way through that nail. And then if we turn on that touch cure light and hold that on for a few seconds, let's see if we can get in really, really close. You can start to see that that color is starting to go matte. Maybe you can't quite see it on camera, but there you go. Now you do see it. All right, so we are going to fully cure this in the light for 60 seconds, just to make sure that we get that full cure all the way through. Now, when you're working with that matte non-tack top coat, this one does not have any tacky finish. Obviously it says non-tack top coat, so we don't have to wipe off any tacky finish after this. When this one is done, it is completely done and cured out, so we don't have to worry about anything. Now, the last thing that I will do on this set is to use our rose oil. Now, I'm not going to put it on our trainer hand today because our trainer hand doesn't need cuticle oil, but real clients and real nails do, so I'm going to put this on myself just so you guys can see. Then the other thing too is when you're working over that matte top coat, if you put that cuticle oil on, it is going to take away that matte look until that cuticle oil absorbs in. So just keep that in mind when you are putting on your cuticle oil. It is going to look shiny on that nail until that oil absorbs in, but it will go back to a matte finish. But just apply a little drop to each nail. You can even apply that underneath those nails, and that way it's going to absorb into that natural nail from underneath as well. So just make sure that you always finish those sets with that cuticle oil. Keep everything hydrated, keep everything healthy. And our nail is fully cured out. So we've got those beautiful nails. Let me give these a quick dust off here. Now, if you do need to check your shape at this point, I'm just going to grab again, this is my 180 file buffer combo. I'm going to just check my shaping. It looks like things got a little bit wide with that top coat. So I'm going to just check, make sure everything is perfectly shaped. Flip over to that buffer side one last time. Make sure that I've got a nice smooth finish on that edge. And our beautiful cotton candy nails are ready to go. So you guys, again, once more, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, join our community, set your notifications for when we go live. We do go live usually about 3 times a week, so make sure you're joining us and subscribe to our channel. And thank you guys for joining us today. We will see you guys back next time.